With us now, Carly Fiorina. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you doing, John?
Never better.
You're coming to like the swamp, I think. You're there a little too often.
I am here a lot. It does have an effect on you, no question about it. And I get home at the end of the week. My wife wants to hose me down with a fire hose, right? But it does have an impact on you, especially, when you're up here all the time, Carly, you realize money runs everything. I mean, that's the one thing that I've learned being up here so much is money runs everything. Whether it's K Street, the lobbyists, the donors, there is so much money that goes around, the consultants. It's kind of incredible. And if you're in this town,
right. Well,
and you
money
don't
runs everything, and it, as you and I have talked about, it is a system focused on self-preservation, not problem solving.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get to, I just got to get to this because we covered it earlier. And I'm a Trump supporter, obviously, from the beginning. So in March, the president sends out this tweet. I'll never forget. It was Saturday morning. And he says, "Oh, terrible, terrible. I've been wiretapped at Trump Tower. These are bad people. It's all going to come out." And then I had to go on CNN, for 2 weeks defending it. And everybody mocked me when I went on. And I said, look, if he says it, he has it, blah, blah, blah. And so then for 2 weeks at the press briefings, whether it was Sean Spicer or Sarah Huckabee, they got hammered over this tweet. Now we find out that Paul Manafort was wiretapped in Trump Tower, in his office, and in his tweet. So, and I assume that the conversations that Paul Manafort had with the president, or at the time, the candidate Trump, were wiretapped. So is this not vindication for the president's tweet, Carly, honestly?
Well, first of all, if Paul Manafort was wiretapped while he was talking with the president, absolutely. I'm behind you on that news cycle. I'm not aware of that. I'm not saying you're not right about it. I just haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of reports about what Mueller's investigation has been doing to Manafort since he left the campaign in July, picking his lock and bursting into his home and all of the rest of it. But I'm not aware of reports that he was wiretapped while he was in the employ of the president as his campaign manager.
Well, let me just tell you, I'm no fan of his. I think there's a lot of squirrely things that went on with his dealings with foreign governments. And I just tell you this, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now. I can't say anything else really on the air, but I wouldn't want to be him. And I think this kind of stuff, it just catches up with you, Carly.
Well, yeah, what goes around comes around. And I think, you and I together way back in January or February were saying, look, we're going to have to get to the bottom of whatever happened here to satisfy the American people of all political persuasions. And that means we need either a special commission, an independent counsel, et cetera. We also said at the time that once an independent prosecutor is appointed, they have their own momentum. They have their own rules. And a guy like Mueller, I believe he understands that the reputation he's built over a lifetime requires him to be fair and fair-minded and get to the truth. On the other hand, I also believe that people like Mueller don't start something without wanting to finish it. And so the question is, how does he finish it, and what does he find out? And I agree with you. It looks like Manafort is in the crosshairs on many things, and it's probably a very uncomfortable position for him to be in.
Well, look, it is an uncomfortable position, and you play around with the system so much, and you're going to get nailed. It's just a matter of time.
Well, that's right. And I'll tell you something, John. We talk a lot about values. People talk a lot about values. And values are critical. Character is critical in a leader. But I'll tell you what values actually are. Mm-hmm. Values are what guide your behavior when no one is looking and you don't think anyone is ever going to find out. That's when you figure out what somebody's values are. And so it's the stuff that people do when no one's looking and they think, no one's ever going to find out about this. I'm going to get away with this. That's what tells you who somebody is. And so, Manafort, there are a million people in a million towns, but especially in Washington, D.C., who are doing things because they think no one's going to find out.
Well, exactly. But, just for full disclosure, Paul Manafort and I did not get along. He tried to get rid of me and was not successful in that, as he tried to purge a lot of people out of there that were very loyal to the president. So you're right, Carly Fiorina, what goes around comes around. Let's get to tonight's debate. Let's go Virginia for a second. I know you're a big supporter of Ed's. I'm really excited about this debate. Ed is a much better debater than meets the eye. I thought he did extraordinarily well in the first debate in West Virginia. And I think he's got the issues on his side where Ralph Northam, who should be ahead in this race by 10. I mean, he should be ahead in every poll by 10. He's tied. He's got more money, but I don't know what kind of a campaign they're running. They're basically a slave to the progressive wing that doesn't represent a majority even in the Democratic Party in Virginia. So I'm looking forward to this debate, Carly. I think Ed is going to win this race.
Well, you know what? Ed, first of all, I'm so glad you are excited about this race and excited about this debate, because obviously this is an incredibly important election for the Commonwealth. You know, you described Ed in your opening comments as dry. I don't think he's dry. I think he's substantive. And I actually think substance matters. I know in this day and age we tend, we confuse politics with entertainment. We want the fancy soundbite. We want the cheer lines and all that. I mean, that's what our politics in general has become. But the truth is, substance matters and policy matters, because what a governor chooses to do impacts people's lives in very real ways. And so Ed approaches this race. More importantly, he approaches the job of governor with real substance, real policy, and real concern for the lives of the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Meanwhile, we all see what's happening in the Democrat Party. You're absolutely right. Their candidate, Northam, is now a left-wing progressive. Who knows what he used to be, but that's what he is now. Hillary Clinton found out that saying never Trump, or I don't like Trump, or I'm going to resist Trump, it's not a winning strategy, because it has nothing to do with people's lives. So maybe Ed's dry sometimes, but I'll tell you what, he is prepared for this job. He is thoughtful about the power and responsibility that the governor holds, and he cares about people's lives all throughout this Commonwealth. And yes, he's a darn good debater, so I think it's going to be a great night.
I'm looking forward to it, and I think he's going to win. I mean, I can't believe the polls are tied right now, and normally all of the polls that we get in Virginia, they always skew for the Democrats. I mean, lost the state by, 5? Every poll had us down by 15, 12. We had one poll that came out that showed us down by 27, 3 or 4 weeks out. I think that was the Christopher Newport University poll. So they always skew in favor of the Democrats. I think when the polls show it's tied, the conventional polls, I think that bodes well for us. What Ed has to do, though, Carly, is he's got to inspire this new swath of Trump voters to get out on November 7th. If he can figure out how to do that, I think he is going to win this race. If he doesn't, I think then it's going to be really close. But he's got to get Trump voters out. Right now, they're not particularly fired up about the guy. How does he do that?
Well, first, I would ask all the Trump voters who are listening to consider this. Maybe you're not fired up. Maybe he's not the most exciting guy. But consider your alternative. Northam? Really? A continuation of Terry McAuliffe's reign? Let's be very clear. Terry McAuliffe has national ambitions. He thinks he's going to run for president someday. He sees this Virginia as an incredibly important platform for that run. He wants someone who's going to continue his legacy. So that's what Ralph Northam is doing in all this. I think it's really important that Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, come back to common sense conservative policies, which is what Ed is all about. And so consider the alternative. You and I have said this before. Gee, it would be really nice if somebody like a Corey Stewart who ran against Ed Gillespie would consider that alternative and would help out here, because it is an important election. It's a very important election. And I think whether you care about education or you care about the economy or you care about freedom of speech, if you care about all of those things, consider your alternative. The Democratic machine, which has turned into, as you point out, the progressive left machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you bring out one other thing. Corey Stewart, who is running for U.S. Senate, as you know, has endorsed Ed a little bit reluctantly, but he's not really doing anything. Like, he's not even coming to the debate tonight. He's got some other event going on. I think this is going to come back to haunt him. You have to be a team player if he's going to be the nominee in 2018, or, he's seeking the nomination. I mean, you got to be a team player. And I'm disappointed.
Well, I apologize if he's endorsed Ed. I missed that. It was probably pretty quiet, but I'm glad he's at least done that. And
it was quiet.
Obviously,
yes.
He has a lot of fans among Trump voters, and so he could be helpful, I think.
Well, yeah, but in order to do that,
if you want the team to help you, you need to play on the team when they need you.
I think so. This is one of these decisions that it comes back to bite you in the butt, kind of like Paul Manafort that we were talking about. Carly, the president today making a speech at the United Nations. Now, he campaigned trashing the UN incessantly. Now, you're president, you change your tune a little bit. Now, his speech today, we understand, is that, hey, look, you guys have got to get your act together. What do you look for the president to say today? And what do you think he ought to be saying?
Well, I think he said much of what he needed to say yesterday, and so I hope that he repeats those themes. I mean, basically what he said yesterday in a very well-received speech was, look, we're gonna help you in your work, but your work needs to change. You need to get after the bureaucratic bloat. You need to get after the inefficiency. I hope what he goes on to say in this particular speech is to be clear about Iran and North Korea in particular. I find it sort of stunning, actually, that neither China nor Russia are even here. That is, of course, because China and Russia not only are both cheating on the sanctions with North Korea, we now know this, but aren't being particularly helpful and see an opportunity. So I hope he talks about Iran and North Korea, but I also hope that he begins to lay out the argument that when the United Nations treats every nation the same, regardless of their behavior, that they lose all credibility and moral standing. And that's in essence what the United Nations has done. Yes, it is a gathering of nations, each of which are equal, yada, yada, yada. But the truth is, when you have human rights violators chairing human rights commissions, when you have nations that are behaving in an abominable way, getting the same respect as nations that play by the rules, you undermine your own credibility. And so I hope he will begin to lay out those themes as well.
Cut a couple more minutes. I really want to get your take on something. So I wrote a column the other day, and I said the movement is now transcending the leader. This is when I thought the president threw out the idea that he would go along with DACA compromise with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, go along with amnesty, put off the wall, not make it part of the discussion, kind of just tossed it out there like he did with Afghanistan. Now, it doesn't matter if you agree or not. I just want to get your take on one thing. So then he throws this out. His base goes ballistic, walks it back. White House denies the deal's made. Now you go to the Alabama race. Carly, Judge Moore is going to win this race. I've backed him. Bannon has backed him. The president backed Strange, the incumbent, and he's going to do a rally for him, I believe, on Monday. Judge Moore is going to win. Is this the movement now transcending its leader?
Well, I think it's such an interesting question, John, because before Trump threw his hat in the ring, 80% of the American people said politicians are corrupt, they're inept, they say what they need to say to get reelected, they're not doing anything for us, we're sick of them. that feeling has never changed. One of the principal reasons that Trump won is because people said, oh, he's different. He is different. He's not a politician. He says what he believes, and he's going to do what he says. And that remains what people want. People know the political system is geared towards self-preservation of those in office or who aspire to office as opposed to solving the problems of the citizens who sent them there. People know that, and they're tired of it, and they're sick of it. And so they want someone to tell it like it is, which Trump, they believe, did, and then do what they say. And I don't think that movement is going away because that frustration has been there for a very, very long time. Hillary Clinton ran straight into that buzzsaw on laws because she was the epitome. She was the manifestation of that system. So, yeah, I think people remain angry and upset, and I think people want straight talk, but more than that, and this is where I think everyone is in peril, people want results. Ideas are great, results are better. Speeches are great, results are better. People want results.
Well, so far we haven't gotten any.
Exactly right, and that's why people are saying, well, look, we need another flamethrower in there.
Mm-hmm. Look, I think you're right. I don't know why the president backed Luther Strange. I guess he's the incumbent, and maybe he went with him on health care, and McConnell talked him into it. But he's going to have an embarrassing defeat Tuesday night because people like me have, who are very much supportive of the president, have abandoned him on this and lined up behind Moore because Strange isn't going to do anything. He's just do whatever McConnell says. And you're right. I mean, I want to disrupt the system because here it is. We can't get anything done. We're 8 months into this thing, and nothing is happening. And now, those that voted for Trump and supported him early, like me, now we have to deal with, agree with it or not, a sellout on amnesty, a sellout on DACA, no wall, and people are getting frustrated.
And I think the question, John, for citizens, and this is a question I ask myself, it's a question I deal with folks all out across the Commonwealth and the nation is, so let's say Roy Moore gets elected.
Yep.
Can one person out of 100 change the system?
No.
If the president can't change the system.
No.
And it's why I said to you last time I talked with you, I am now convinced that real reform of the system has to come equally from outside. Because this system has been entrenched for so long. You see it every day that you're in Washington. If a president like Donald Trump can't change it, maybe he can. It's early on, but so far, to your point, he hasn't. Can one senator change it? We as citizens have to figure out how to change it from without.
That's going to be the final word. Carly, you and I should take the show on the road. We really should. The John and Carly Show.
That's an interesting proposition.
Carly Fiorina, it's always an honor to have you on. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, John.
More information?
Bye-bye.
CarlyFiorina.com.